All right, everyone, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Mike Ernst. I'm filling in for Morgan Trainer today, and we'll go ahead and we'll try and walk you through the intent and the functionality of the Prolog mobile app. If you have questions, as I mentioned a couple times, we are have everybody on mute so we don't have background noise over the call. If you have questions along the way, please use the chat function within WebEx. At the end of the training session, though, I will unmute everybody, and we'll have time for questions when we're done. So I'm going to go through the tool briefly, knowing that you will get aspects of Prolog mobile training in other classes that we are hosting, such as RFIs, or punch list, or daily reports. So what we'll be given here is an intro and a general way to navigate throughout the tool and the product and what it can do for you. So we'll jump into it. The intent of the tool overall, and actually I should step back one moment. If you attended any of the classroom trainings that either Morgan or I have put on over the past month and a half in any of the offices, this is a repeat of that information. There's nothing new here, so feel free to jump off. But if this is your first chance or you missed one of those classes, then this is a great intro. So now I'll get started. The intent of the tool, of the Prolog mobile tool, is to make sure that we have information available on our job sites and in the field. Specifically, we want the ability to reference current and accurate information when we're in the field. And so I'll get into a couple examples, but the primary way that you would see the current and accurate information is when we bring forward plans and submittals, we are only bringing forward the latest approved version and or latest approved submittal. You will not see plans in draft state. You will not see submittals that are still under review. So what that means is if it shows up on your iPad on the site, you can go ahead and build from it. It is the most current information that you have. The second thing that the tool is really meant for is point of entry. And what I mean by that is capturing information as you're walking around the site so that you don't have to jot something down and then go fill it back in once you get back to your job site trailer or your laptop. Examples of that could be an RFI that you've had along the way as you're walking through the job site, or collecting the amount of personnel that are on your site for your daily report. You run into the foreman for the glazer and you find out that he has 9 people on his crew. You enter it immediately into your iPad and then you're done with it. Again, you don't have to write stuff down and then transfer it into another system later. So reference the current accurate information in point of entry. The other thing I'll mention with regards to the intent of the tool is it is 90% for field staff. Project managers can make use of it at isolated points, specifically punch list, but the day-to-day use of this tool is for the field supervisors out on the site, walking the job site. Next thing I wanted to cover is kind of other tools that we have out there, and people may be getting confused on when to use this versus when to use Oxygen or Bluebeam or any of the other tools that people have heard about. And I always start this off with an analogy saying that, you know, you can tighten a bolt with a set of pliers. It's better if you have more of them to use a wrench. And if you have a lot of bolts that you need to tighten, you want something like a torque wrench or something pneumatic. And so you're always choosing the best tool for the operation. What I'm showing you today in Prolog Mobile and some of the modules that we'll talk about that it supports, these are the best tools for that. An example would be a lot of people use Bluebeam for viewing plans. It works fine in that capacity. We used it in the past because we had to. But in the future, what you will be using Bluebeam for is the tools or functionality that it has in it, viewing the plans that come from Prolog Mobile. So the idea is I have a Prolog Mobile plan. I know because it's in Prolog Mobile that is the most current and most accurate information out there. I don't have to worry about that. I can then take that plan and essentially export it over to Bluebeam and start doing quantity takeoffs or comparisons or some of those aspects that Bluebeam is good at for the tool. but the basic information that I know I can trust comes from Prolog Mobile first. Oxygen, another tool that a lot of people have been using to send big files around and using it as a plan viewer on site. Those aspects of Oxygen will go away with this. Photos would be another one that people used Oxygen for. Those aspects are replaced by Prolog Mobile. Oxygen still has its place as a tool in the company, or any cloud type service has its place in the company to transfer large files out to parties that aren't always involved in your project. Maybe the random banker or something like that that needs plans for some inspection or some review. Or you would use them for in-process plans, meaning that you have FDs, DDs, and review sets of plans. They are not formalized, they are not finalized, they are in some sort of coordination state. And so that's when Oxygen is used. Once they become real and become 100% CDs that somebody can build off of, or 100% the model that somebody can build off of, that's when they go into Prolog Mobile. The tool itself is available to both Ryan personnel as well as any third party that you want to invite into it. Subcontractors, owners, city inspectors, commissioning agents, anybody you can think of, we can give a license to and get them in there so that they can access the same information. We do have the ability to control their security rights as well, meaning that if you want to allow a subcontractor to come in and just view final RFIs, view plans, and let's say view their punch list items, we can do that. If you want to give them a security right to also go ahead and create an RFI that would come to Ryan for us to process, we can also do that. So that's going to be up to each individual team and your essentially openness to allowing subs to come in and do some work in there. So there's many options there. You do need to know that we have a limited number of licenses, but we share those, meaning that as somebody comes into the product, every time they have it open on the screen, we're not necessarily using a license, but every time they sync, and I'll talk about that in a second here, we use a license. And so that license usually lasts for 3 to 15 minutes and then goes back into the pool for other people to get in. What that translates to is by having just a few licenses, we actually have 50, we are able to support 300 to 400 people of using the product because they are only checking out a license here and there. The product itself does integrate into ProLiance, but you should not think of it as ProLiance for your iPad. There are functions that it does not exactly like, but funnels right into ProLiance, and there are functions that it does not do in ProLiance. An example of what it does not do, like ProLiance, is your ACR or cost event management. There's no financial component to this. But all the items such as punch list immediately port in to ProLiance. Or in a vice versa case, any drawing that is put into ProLiance comes over to Prolog Mobile. So I will go through the modules here in a second and those areas of functionality that you can use. But you will see that it is a subset of what's available in ProLiance. But just know that anything that's captured in Prolog Mobile resides in ProLiance forevermore, and so we have a long archive, meaning that if your iPad gets destroyed, don't worry about it. It is back in our data center, and we still have access to it moving forward. The other nice thing about integrating into ProLiance, it eliminates duplicate efforts. I mentioned ideas of using Oxygen and Bluebeam before to get those functionalities to work. Somebody has to physically take the set of drawings and move them around and dump them into other folders like the Oxygen folder. This is no longer the case with the ProLiance to Prolog connection. They put it in ProLiance and it automatically comes through to Prolog. There's no additional effort on a PA, admin, PM, or field supervisor's part. I mentioned briefly that this is an offline product, meaning that when you first come to get into Prolog Mobile, you will go through a function where you sync the records of a specific project down to your local device. And so in the instance of plans, all the plans in ProLiance, if I hit sync, they will come down to ProLiance or to your iPad, and they will locally reside on your iPad. Once that sync is done, I can go to a Wi-Fi dead zone. If I'm out on a job site, if I'm in a coal mine, wherever that you don't have signal, it doesn't matter. You don't need it. You can see right now I have Wi-Fi signal, but that's just because I'm in the office right now. I could be anywhere in Montana, and if I had downloaded all this information or synced all this information down to my iPad, it would reside here. Same thing is once I sync again, when I have a Wi-Fi connection, it all goes back up and lands in ProLiance. And so I should probably talk about these buttons a little bit. When you're on the sync screen, and hopefully everybody can see my cursor, but I'll describe it anyways, I'm pressing the button at the bottom right-hand corner that says sync. That takes me to this general screen and gives me a few toggles down the left-hand side. Download data and upload data is probably what you think. If I have RFIs that were answered in ProLiance, it will download those answers to Prolog Mobile. If I had a daily report that I created in Prolog Mobile, it would upload that to ProLiance, and all that information would be captured. So having these toggles turned on, there's a turned off, it turns gray, turned on, it's blue. We'll send that information back and forth. Download file library. You'll see down here at the bottom middle is file library. That is all your approved drawings and accepted submittals. Those are typically larger files. They take a little bit longer, but you can toggle that on and off as you see fit. I would suggest that at least once a day you make sure that this one is turned on and you sync all the information to make sure you have the current stuff. But if you're trying to transfer some information real quick to get an RFI going, you could turn that one off during the middle of the day just so that the syncing process is faster. The last button here is this project only, so that just isolates the information coming up and down to the project that you're currently on. The name kind of runs out here, but I am on the Prolog Mobile Test Project. A list of our projects are available if you click on this portfolio button down in the bottom left-hand corner, and I'll click on that quick and just scroll to see all the projects that I can access and have on my iPad. Just so you know, your list when you first start will be much smaller than this. It will only be the projects that you have access to. So you won't be seeing all of Ryan companies, just the ones that are pertinent to you, plus this Prolog Mobile Test Project. This test project, just so you know, is a sandbox of sorts. You can go in there and you can mess around. You can try anything out that you want. You're not going to hurt anything. You're not going to mess anything up for anybody else. But if you went into any one of these other projects, then those are live projects, and you would actually be essentially producing an RFI for the Paragon Outlet Mall. So if you're out there, please remain in the Prolog Test Project. While I'm in there, though, if I keep this toggle on, it's only going to sync that project. If I turned it off, it would sync all 40 or 50 projects that you saw on the other screen, which is a lot of information, takes a lot of time. When it comes to syncing, I suggest that you sync 3 times a day, if possible, morning, noon, and night. It's going to take somewhere between 3 and 15 minutes each time, and so don't stare at the screen. I always tell you to hit the sync button here at the top. Hit that sync button, make sure it gets going, and as you'll see these words start populating here, and walk away. Make a phone call, go to the bathroom, get some coffee, talk to a sub, whatever you need to do, but walk away, and it'll be done at the end. And you'll see that everything was successful if you read this. Project documents reloaded successfully. And that'll bring everything down to your iPad and all the information back and forth. At least one of those a day should have the download file library on. I would suggest that you do it at night because that's probably going to be the one that takes the longest time to do. You could essentially hit it and walk out the door, and it'd be ready for you the next morning. If you are loading a project for the first time, please know that that could take much longer. We've had projects as they're loading in plans and everything for the very first time take anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour and a half. I heard in one case where they just had a ton of records. So know that that happens the first time. After that, if you hit sync again, it would be in that 3 to 15 minute time frame. One thing I was going to show you, and the idea of syncing and these toggles are just to deal with the time it takes to sync and essentially the memory and storage that are on your iPad itself. So there's one other item that's not on this screen that you just need to be aware of to pull information down. So I'm going to switch to a module here. And note that on the right-hand side, you'll see this area called Files. And under the files, some of these have parentheses around them, and some of them don't. Files are attachments, or in most cases, 9 times out of 10, they are photos. Photos that somebody has taken to either do a progress photo or support the punch list item that they're looking at or a QA/QC item that they're looking at. The reason, though, that you'll see these parentheses is it means that a photo exists in this record here that says Big Diet Pepsi. A photo exists out in the cloud, but it has not been physically brought down to your iPad. Even if you sync it, it would not physically bring it down. And that's just because there are so many photos that can occur on a project. They're just trying to keep the storage in check and the amount of time it takes to sync in check. If you needed to pull those down because you wanted them locally on your iPad for viewing, you can do it by hitting this cloud with the down arrow at the very top, which is, I always say, is Get Files, to pull those down locally to your device. Right now I am in the Photos module, which is kind of general progress photos. I can't see any reason why you would want to pull down all the files related to that. And in fact, I'll go ahead and hit the button here, that Get Files button, and it'll ask me if I want to download 302 records or photos. I'm not going to, because that would take a long, long time. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of that. But if I wanted to, for some reason, I could go in here and type in Pepsi. And you'll see as I'm typing in the search box in the upper, it reduced the amount of files that are available to me. Now if I go ahead and again hit the download or Get Files button, it'll ask me if I want to do the one record. I could say yes, but since we're on the training, I'll say no. But it's a nice way to isolate some of those issues that you have. Examples where it would be good to have the Get Files come down for a module is if you were going out to recheck a punch list. If you were doing that, you may want to have all those photos that somebody took before you available for you to see as you're going around. So kind of a long way around, but that's essentially what the Get Files are and the reason that they're holding off on those. Next, I want to talk to you about navigation in general, and I'll kind of walk through the screen, both the top buttons and the bottom buttons, and how things kind of change. The first one is the modules, and this represents all the functions that you have available to you. In the upper left-hand corner, I'm going to click on Photos. I'm just going to touch it, and I'll get a drop-down list of all the modules and functions that we have going on in Prolog Mobile. RFIs, punch lists, photos, a few options for daily reports, and then checklists. I'm actually going to click on checklists because there are a few subsets to that that are available. And so now that I've clicked on checklist and selected that module, I'm going to click on right next to it where it says commissioning list, and get another drop-down box. But these are the type of checklists that are available to you. Commissioning lists, QA/QC checklists, safety, and then test and inspection reports, essentially. So those are the main modules that exist. Like I said, we are going to have classes that go on that talk about daily reports, that talk about QA/QC, talk about punch lists and how to do them, and we will walk through each one of those and show the functionality of each one of those modules at that time, but we won't cover it today in this intro. The other thing to note, so I'm going to just click on punch list here. So I've selected one. You can see I'm dealing with the punch list now, and I'm going to skip down to the bottom and walk through this. We've already mentioned portfolio is your list of projects that are out there. I've shown you that one. But when I'm in a project, so I'm in the Prolog Mobile Test Project, you can see at the top, I'm in punch list. If I click on list view, you're going to see the spreadsheet looking view of all the punch list items that have been identified. It's going to have some general descriptions, locations, numbers, the attachments and files, and then just the sync status, whether it's a Prolog record or it's pending upload, meaning that you have not moved it up to ProLiance yet. You can switch while you're in there, and this is a good example, to Plan View. And what that does is I'm going to go ahead and click on Plan View as the button, and it's going to switch the view on the screen to be Plan itself and locate with pins where those issues are. You will notice at the top that another area of designation came up, and I can change the plans that I want to look at the punch list items on. Right now I'm looking at a site plan. If I touch that, I then get a drop-down box of all the other floor plans that are available to me. I can select another one, and it'll drop down and show the punch list items I have on any one of these floors and all the pins that go with that. A general point with the pins while I'm talking about them is I can click on any pin. So I'm just going to put my finger on this pin right here, and it's going to give me general information about that issue and what it is. If I wanted to, I can click on these three buttons here. If the pin was in the wrong spot, these three little marks give me this option to move the pin, unpin it, meaning it's not in that location, or I can just cancel my way back out. I also can go into the item in detail by clicking on this form in the upper left-hand corner of the pop-up box. If I click on that, it'll bring me to the form of that specific punch list item, all the information surrounding it, when it was reported, when it's due, when the correction was made, so on and so forth. So I'm going to get out of that, but just know that you can jump into any of the information on those pins. I can also do that by clicking on this list that's on the left-hand side. So if I pick this door handle is really, whatever it's supposed to say is really loose, I get the same option where it showed me where that pin was. I have the same options if I wanted to go into that actual form and see what that item is if I wanted to. So there's the form itself. Okay. If you needed more real estate on the screen, because this list on the left-hand side is kind of over the areas that you're looking at, you'll see these two little bars here. If I put my finger on that and drag it to the left, it kind of hides that list, but it leaves those two bars there. I can also then just drag it back. Other areas that you may be seeing is when I'm on this plan view, I have the option of looking at items that are pinned or unpinned, meaning that somebody has listed them, but they have not located them on the screen or on the plan. To do that, all I do is take this toggle for pinned and turn it to off. This will now show me all my unpinned items, right? So if I wanted to, I had a whole bunch of items that I was just entering away really fast and not pinning them along the way. I could go back in by bringing it down to this unpinned view, selecting the record itself, the hole in the south wall, and it'll give me the option if I want to pin it. If I pin it, it gives me this clear screen, and I can zoom in to wherever I wanted to, where it's applicable, and put my finger on it, and it'll ask me to confirm if I want to pin it there. That item has now been pinned there for future reference. I'm going to switch back to list view quick just to show you that you do have some filtering capabilities. I already showed you the search box in the upper right-hand corner where you can just start typing in names and numbers and stuff. I can start typing in 200, and that'll reduce my list to anything that says 200 on this screen, such as the room number or building number in this case. I'll X out of that. You also have the ability to filter any list based on its phase or state. And so right next to the module area where it says punch list photos, whatever the case may be in the upper left-hand corner, there's this area that says all. If I click on that, that'll give me a list of the filters that I can apply to this. If I want to only look at my closed items, I can. If I only want to look at my open items, I can go ahead and click on that, and it'll filter those out. Items that are pending reinspection, meaning that a sub has come through on the punch list and said that they made their corrections, and now I need to go verify that they've made it, I can do that, which is very good to isolate those types of items. We also have, when we talk about punch list, a couple options for whether it's the real punch list, the official one, or a Ryan pre-punch or deficiency or attention required list that can be done ahead of time. You will note as I clicked on some of those, like if I clicked on closed, it's going to show a few items that have different colors. That's because they are in multiple states, right? These items are closed out, but there's also some other color scheme, which, let's see what the red ones are, punch list. It means that they are also a punch list item. There can be some that would be both closed and pending reinspection. And so the filter is working even though the color may not come with it. Essentially, we had to decide between one color or the other of which would show, but the filter is working in the background. The other option you have here is, I mentioned pending upload. If I clicked on this, it's probably not going to say anything. Actually, I'll say one item that I had created but have not synced yet, and so it has not made it up into ProLiance. This is a good way to find issues that you had done along the way. If I was creating an RFI, for example, and I got back to the trailer, I decided I didn't want to make it public or an official RFI because I had found the answer to it. I could go ahead and filter for pending uploads. It would show me all the ones that have not been synced up to ProLiance yet. I could jump into that one if I wanted to and delete it. While I'm here, I'll actually go through a few of the items and navigation icons that you will see in each one of the forms. And so I'm going through the top buttons right now. One is X. This would back me out, say I'm done with this issue, but it doesn't save it. It just X me out or cancels me out of this screen or this punch list. Right next to it is delete, the trash can right there. If I hit that, I could delete it just as I described. In this case, I'm going to skip over this icon a little bit, but in punch list they have a special icon, which is a clipboard with a check, which means that the item has been approved. If I went ahead and clicked on that, I get the option to accept it or reject it, and you'll see some information got filled in, such as who inspected it and the official sign-off date. If I wanted to, I could copy this item. Let's say I am in a room and I see a ding in the wall. I make one item, hole in the south wall. This is perfect. There's a hole in the south wall. I need to send this to my, in this case I don't have anybody in this project, but I need to send it to my drywaller to go ahead and patch the wall. I would then copy it or hit this double square here and make a second one for the painter to touch up. So each item is one by one. There's one sub per item in here, but you can copy all the information, where it was at, where it was located, and the item description very quickly by hitting this copy function. And then the last one is the square with the big check mark. That's always save. It means I accept all this information in here and I want to save it. So that's what I'll go ahead and hit, and it'll take me back to my list. And I'll go ahead and get on all so that the list pops back up. Continuing across the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and click on File Library here. I talked about it a little bit, but this is where all your contract documents sit. Drawings and submittals, and again, these are just the approved and accepted versions. I can click on these two, and it'll start showing a folder structure as it's set up in ProLiance to get me to the drawing I want. I want to look for architectural drawings, and I can go ahead and click on first floor, and it'll render it up. I have the ability to use my two fingers to zoom into items, zoom out, move around, whatever I need to. When I'm done with that drawing or viewing it, I just hit done in the upper left-hand corner. If you wanted to, if you were doing, as I mentioned, using Bluebeam to do a quantity takeoff, I have the ability to open this plan in any other viewer or app that I have on my iPad. And so Bluebeam would be a good example. So I'm going to click on this upper right-hand corner now, where it's the box with the up arrow, which is the open in icon. I will do that. It'll give me a list of the apps that I have that can handle this. I'll go ahead and select Open in Bluebeam Review. It'll take a while. I'll open up the app, and it'll pull that drawing forward. Once it gets into that drawing showing, then I can go ahead and do my takeoffs. If I wanted to find out how many doors should be delivered that day, or do a quantity takeoff for, it's taking a while here, so I'm just going to skip out of that for time's sake. But if I want to do a quantity takeoff for concrete to know how much is coming in the next pour, I could do that. You also have the ability to go ahead and I'm going to back out here a little bit, to have the complete BIM model in here. So you'll notice that in this project there's actually a VDC tab. In there, there is the current accurate model that exists. By clicking on that, I can do the same thing. This one immediately is not even going to give me an option to open it in the native Prolog mobile file, but instead it's going to ask me what tool do I want to open it in. If you guys have 360 glue on your device, you can go ahead and load in the current version of any model. It's a free app. It's a free license to get in there. It works out great. You can start having layers and rooms and navigating through the model, whatever you need to do. But again, you are using, I'm getting a little crazy with my views here, you are using the current accurate information that's posted in Prolog Mobile, so you can trust it, and then you're using another tool to do what it does, in this case viewing a BIM model. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to jump back now to Prolog Mobile. Back, submittals, exact same thing. You can click on any of these any of these pages in here. Now I'm going to continue my way across the bottom. We've already talked about the sync button, and then the last one is help. Help was great. It's like a PDF here if you needed to. You kind of have to scroll through everything, but if you forget anything of what we're talking about, or you are wondering what those icons are, again, you forget what those icons are, this is a great place to find it. I talked about earlier the cloud with the down arrow, which is get files. That would show up there, all the sync buttons, what they mean. There's a few more, what the toggles do. So if you forget what I'm saying and you don't want to go back out and listen to this recording again later, you can do that and find those there. So know that that exists for you at all times. So I'm going to jump back to list view. I am going to go ahead and create a new photo. So I'm going to go to my modules, select photos. So I'm taking a regular progress photo, and I'm going to start a new one. To start a new anything, photos, RFIs, punch lists, whatever, you're looking for this big plus sign in the upper right-hand corner. That's always the create new function. I'm going to go ahead and create new. You can do either one of these options, new or camera. It's just where you start from. So I'm going to go ahead and hit create new, and it'll give me my form for my photo. I can title it WebEx Training, and now I have the title for it. I'm not going to go through everything completely here. I'm going to go through this pretty fast, but I want to just talk to you about the form in general. So you'll notice a couple things. One is it's color-coded. Specifically, we have red, white, and gray. All the items in red are required. You need to have something in there. You need to have a title. You need to have a date. You do have the ability to change anything that's pre-populated in there if you want to. So this date, if I click on it, which was today's date, I can backdate it to a previous date. If I agree with that, I'm going to go ahead and hit the Save button, which again is the check mark in the box. This eraser means clear, and then the X cancels me out, which both of these are kind of the same thing. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and accept it. I want to backdate it, and it changed the date. The white categories are optional. These are ones that provide context or content to the photo that you're taking that may be helpful for somebody in the future. A lot of these have drop-downs. So if I go ahead and just touch on the white area as progress photos, it's going to give me a list of photo types. Field conditions, existing conditions, progress photos, videos, any one of those I can label it as, and it'll select it. A lot of times in most of the modules, except for this one for some reason. It knows, the iPad knows who you are from how you logged in, and a lot of times the submitted by company and contact information is already filled in for you. If not, you can go ahead and hit the field. You'll get a list of all your options. I'm going to go ahead, instead of scrolling down to my name, I'll use the search function here, start typing in my name, and as I go, it automatically makes it available to me. And you'll notice that it associated me with my company, with Ryan Companies. And so it knows by putting in my name, it autofills the other areas in. The next color that's out there is the gray. That is the read-only aspects of it. It's usually it almost always is pre-populated for you or populated at the end with integration information. In this case, it's going to be the number of the photo. It's just a placeholder for that. If it was an RFI and we had an answered RFI, you'll see the entire answer section will be gray, meaning that it came to you back from an architect or an engineer, and here's their information, and that's what they move forward with. You can't change it, though. So that's why it's marked as gray. We talked about the icons on the top, so I'll skip that. A couple things to note, in any of these modules, there's a couple areas where we couldn't hide things, but we grayed them out. Specifically in this one, there's a cost impact section that we couldn't hide. We will try and do that for you in the future, but you'll notice that buttons down here are grayed. I can't touch them. I'm trying to touch them as I'm talking about them, and nothing's happening. You can't do anything with them. If you ever see anything that's kind of grayed out with that light gray, you can't do anything with it. Or if you see something labeled as DNU, it means do not use. That was really just our workaround for trying to get rid of things that we could not physically hide or having you not pay attention to them. So we did take great pains to limit the number of fields that you need to enter in here by using the color coding system and hiding what we could. Next thing is on the bottom, you will notice a few tabs, and these will be different in every module that you come up with, but there will always be a Files tab at the end. In this case, there's one called Items. This is another one that we're going to try and hide in the future, but I'll jump to Files. Files would be where you have your photos. And so now I can start taking my photos. I know it's taken me a long time to get to this point, but I can add as many photos as I want to this record. And so I'll hit the plus sign over here to take the photo. It'll give me a drop down whether I want to take a new photo, I want to pull it from photos that are already on my iPad, or something from the Prolog library, meaning that I can actually select a plan if I wanted to and have that populate here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit take photo, and I will take a picture of my nice cube. And then I'll go ahead and hit use photo at the bottom, and it'll prepare that attachment and it'll put it in. I think everything's good here. If I wanted to, I have the ability to annotate that, which is the pencil in the upper right-hand corner in this box. I can click on that. It gives me more toolbars to do, such as this little icon down at the bottom, and I can select the paintbrush and start circling things. I'm okay with what I just marked. I go ahead and hit save. Again, the check box, or the box with the check mark in it, and it'll save that information and that annotation together. Everything's good on this photo, and if I focus on this area in this upper left-hand corner, I don't have a kind of a save function here. I'm not all the way out of it, but I can go hit back to photos, which takes me back to the form, and you'll see I have a captured image there. I'll go through and just show you that you can add multiple images in here as you need to, right? There's a lot of options. So you can keep adding photos and or drawings if I wanted to all those. And I'll hit back photos, and it just keeps adding it. So you can see if you were doing progress photos, you would have one after another. You could maybe have, here's your photo this week, the following week, and the week after in there. Now, if I have all the photos that I wanted to in here, I am backing out of photos altogether and hitting the save button in the upper left-hand corner, right? So that was the photo that I just did at the very bottom. you will notice that the sync status says pending upload, that I have 3 records, and since I took them on my iPad, they don't have parentheses around them, meaning that I can access them again in the future. If I wanted to, again, remind you that if you want to find the ones that are pending upload, this little icon here, you can always filter it by clicking the All button here, hitting pending upload, and it'll filter just to those items that have not been synced yet. So you have ways of finding those out. But you can access that photo again. You'll notice I kind of lost my way as far as where it was at, and because it got pulled into this big list. Again, that's the great reason of having that pending upload filter to use. I can find it again quickly, go back into any one of these photos, and it'll pull up the information that I have for it. So I'll save it. Let's think here. Maybe I will go to RFIs, just to show you the gray screens. I will go to closed RFIs and show you this one has been answered with a file. Everything is gray. Again, it's all come back as an answer for you. There's a lot more of those tabs down at the bottom. I won't go through all of them, but know that they will give you different pieces of information related to this specific RFI. And if I wanted to, I could go over to the file and find out what photo is with it. And I'm done with that one, so I will jump out of it. Let's see. I'm just looking through my list. I think I have covered everything I had really planned to. If you are interested in using Prolog Mobile, your PAs can set up a project at any point for you. You could be midstream of a project, and if they have the information in ProAlliance, the first time you sync, it will all pull down to your iPad. And so go to your PAs and just tell them who you want to have Prolog Mobile access, and they will get that set up. Just know that the PAs, while they do have the administration rights to do this stuff, they are not in it every day like they are ProAlliance. And so just take patience the first time. It may take them a couple hours to get your project set up the first time. But you can start any project either new or midstream moving forward. Other things that the PAs can do for you that I won't go through because I know completely because I know there's a different class on that. But if you were doing a checklist and you wanted to add a specific QA/QC template as an available list for you to check, they can upload them. You'll notice here at the top I have a few of the ones out of our QA/QC manual that we have, but not all 60 or 65 of them. I'm only going to pull forward what is applicable to my project and make sure that they're tailored to my project. And so you can put any list that you want into Prolog Mobile as a checklist. Your PA can help you with that function. The other thing that they can do to also help is if I was in a punch list item, you'll see that when you get in here, you have the ability to add typical conditions that has some standard conditions that I could do under asphalt and some typical conditions that go with that. We believe that we can also create a custom category for your project that has the 10 typical conditions that you've been doing. So if you had been through the first floor punch list and the second time you wanted to make sure that all those typical conditions show up for the second floor, or third floor, or fourth floor, we can create, or the PA can create a specific section for you to do that. So that is essentially what the PAs do. But other than that, it's pretty self-administered just because the connection to ProAlliance. So with that, I don't see any questions in the chat. I am going to go ahead and unmute everybody, so there may be some background noise. Hopefully I have everybody on the phone line now. Are there any questions that you guys have that you would like me to go through, remembering that each one of these modules will be tied in greater detail into a class, such as when we're talking about punch lists we'll go through all the functionality of punch list within here. But I was just trying to give you general navigation. So with that, who has the first question?
Kelly, of the South Central region, can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me okay? I'm sorry.
It's just breaking up a little bit, but I think I can hear you. Go.
Hey, Mike. Kelly out of the South Central region here in Austin, Texas. I had a quick question. When will the rollout, or I guess when will we be able to get the Prolog on our iPad? The actual app itself.
Yep. The app itself. So anybody can go to the App Store, and you can download just by searching through. So I'm doing it on the screen right now in the upper right-hand corner. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to type in Prolog Mobile. You will see that it is free when I get there. I actually have it loaded already, so that's why it says open. But otherwise, it would say free, and from there, you'll load it directly onto your iPad. We do have instructions. There's a couple setup things that you have to do, meaning that you have to type in like a URL or a link of where to direct it to, and then your username and password. So if you need to get that, contact your PA, and they have access to all those types of setup information. But to download the app, you can do that today, and then they will get you connected.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else? All right, going once? Going twice? All right. Well, we'll call that a training. So if you guys have any additional questions that either you don't think of while we were on the training or you didn't want to ask where the whole group was around, feel free to give me a call directly. My extension is 4256. Otherwise, we'll get all this information and even this recording posted out to On the Green, and so you can view it at your leisure in the future. Thanks, everybody, and have a great day. Thanks.